Okay guys, so welcome to this week's live lesson. I'm making air quotation marks because it's not really live, because sometimes I have a life when I do things. So I'm in Amsterdam on a very short break, and obviously if I'm in Amsterdam I can't be making live videos at the same time. So it's currently Monday while I'm speaking to you right now, and I decided to pre-record this week's lesson. So exactly the same lesson, just I will be not answering live questions and stuff this week, but all back to normal next week, and I'll be giving you feedback and everything as normal. So nothing to worry about really, but just thought I would be totally transparent with you and not try and pretend that it's a live lesson when obviously it's not. Okay, so the most common idea this week for a live lesson was developing main ideas, specifically what to do after you write your main idea in the main body paragraph. In other words, explanations and examples. How to write explanations, how to write examples. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first of all, why is this such a big problem? So I noticed that this is a big problem for many of you. Many of you complain that you can't do this or worry that you can't do this. And to be honest, looking at a lot of your writing submissions, it is a common problem that I see. But to be honest, this is one of the only things I feel really frustrated about, because to me, it seems like a very simple, straightforward thing to do. It's often difficult to teach something that you find very, very obvious and very straightforward. For example, could you teach someone how to walk? Could you teach someone how to breathe? To me, explaining something, supporting things with examples, maybe it's because I trained as a lawyer, and that's one of the key skills that you develop, explaining things to other people, communicating with other people, using examples to win arguments, things like that. Maybe it's also because, combined with being an IELTS teacher, or maybe it's just how my brain works, but I find this really easy to understand and really easy to do. And it's frustrating for me because I've shown people again and again and again exactly what to do, and people are still struggling. But this lesson hopefully will address that. So after all, you simply have to explain something and support it with an example. So you do this every single day. You would not be able to operate in the world if you couldn't explain things, if you couldn't use examples. Unless you're the sort of person that just sits at home and never speaks to anybody, which is highly unlikely. Like nearly everybody on the course is a professional person, a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a architect, someone like this. In your daily lives, in your work, in your own language, you are constantly explaining things to people. It's impossible to communicate with someone without explaining things to people, without using examples. So again, it's difficult for me to understand why this is such a problem, but let's get more into that. However, it is obviously a problem because so many of you requested help with it. So we are going to get into, try to find out the reason why this is so frustrating for you guys and me, and try and help you with it so then neither of us has to be frustrated. So why this is frustrating as a teacher. So there's a whole module on it. So there's a whole module in the course dedicated to helping you develop main body paragraphs. So it's frustrating to think that I created that, showing you exactly what to do, but still people don't think it's good enough. So we show you how to do it for all of the different types of essay. So there's a whole module on opinion essays, a whole module on discussion essays, a whole module on advantages and disadvantages, problem solution, double questions, and in each of those we show you exactly how to develop a main body paragraph. But again, people are like, I still don't know how to do it. And there are numerous examples of me doing it effortlessly. So there are numerous examples in all of the modules and all in the Band 9 Essay Bank and all the different essays that I produce, showing you exactly what to do. We have done other live lessons on it, so there are many, many other live lessons all about how to develop main body paragraphs. And it should be something that comes naturally to you. It is a basic communication skill. And it seems ridiculous to think that people who are so intelligent can't explain why they think something. So I'm just explaining this because often you will hear me being very frustrated when people just say, I can't do that. Like, there is a huge body of lessons and information and examples and model essays and everything showing you what to do. So if sometimes I do sound a little bit like, why are you not getting this? This is the reason why, and I just wanted to address that. It's not me getting frustrated for no reason. So why do many of you have a problem with this? Many of you overcomplicate it. So many of you think that you have to do something very complex, very complicated, when really an explanation and example is the opposite. It is a simple, straightforward thing. The reason why you explain something is to make it easy to understand. The reason why you give an example is to make it easy to understand. So if you overcomplicate it, you're making it difficult to understand and you're obviously doing it wrong. You think you can't do it. So many of you, and this is just a basic mindset thing that a lot of people have, not just you guys, but most human beings have this, is a lot of you just say, like, there's no way that I can do that, I can't do it. If you have that attitude of just like, I can't do it, I'll never be able to do it, you never will. And there's a really famous quote by Henry Ford. It says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are correct. So if you think you can do something, you will be able to do it. But if you think you can't do something, and you just have this attitude that no matter how much someone helps you with something, no matter how much someone teaches you something, you just are like, no, I still can't do it. You have to change that attitude if you want to learn. Many of you have poor communication skills. So we're going to look at this, I'm going to show you examples of some of the emails that you guys sent me. Many of you find it difficult to explain yourself, communicate effectively. I don't know why this is. Again, I was kind of trained how to communicate effectively with people, but many of you don't do that. And that's just not you guys. I'd say the majority of human beings have very poor communication skills, especially written communication skills. You do not think of the reader. So many of you think about, how can I demonstrate how great my vocabulary is or how great my grammar is, but you don't actually realize that the purpose of writing is to send a message to the reader. So you don't think about them. So if you don't think about the reader, if you don't think about the purpose of writing, then you're not really going to communicate effectively. So again, you do not think of the main purpose of writing, which is to communicate. You feel that writing about the topic in general is the same as explaining your ideas. So explaining about the topic in general and explaining your specific ideas are two completely different things. So what people will do, and this is a big thing specifically for IELTS Task 2, is they will think of two specific ideas, and the ideas are good, but instead of explaining their ideas, they just talk generally about the topic. That's a generalization that's going to get you marked down. Often you think of a valid reason, but then explain the topic of the question rather than the reason which you've chosen. So again, this is related to the previous point here. You are not explaining the general topic. You are explaining the specific idea, the specific topic sentence that you have provided and how it answers the question. So you're not just talking generally there. So let's go back to basics. So there are three elements to a good main body paragraph: the topic sentence, the explanation, the example. Okay. So Why have these? All right, what is their role in a paragraph? Is it just because some guy said that it should be this way and that's the way we do it? No. Each of these things has a very specific role in the paragraph. The topic sentence says, hello, Mr. Reader, or Miss Reader, or Mrs. Reader, or whoever is reading it. This is what this topic is about. The explanation, what it does is it anticipates the questions that the reader might have and helps them understand that topic sentence. The example supports that main idea and again helps the reader understand. All right. So understanding why we do these things is going to help you. So if you write a topic sentence that doesn't actually contain the main idea of the paragraph, then there was no point in writing it in the first place. I see people writing a topic sentence and the rest of their paragraph is totally unrelated to that main point. If your topic sentence does not match what you wrote about in the introduction, again, completely useless. Why did you even write that in the first place? If the explanation does not actually help the reader understand the topic sentence, why did you write it at all? If you write an explanation and just start talking generally about the topic, you're not explaining the topic sentence. Why even write it in the first place? If your example is completely unrelated to these other two things, again, it's completely useless. You only write things that help the reader and help develop your argument and strengthen your argument. That's all they are there for. That might seem really, really simple, but it's shocking to see the number of people that, no matter what we tell them, they just don't do these basic things. And all you need to do in order to be successful in the IELTS writing test is do basic things well. Really, that's all you need to do. Just do the fundamentals, the basic things well. I sound like I'm preaching, but it's frustrating for me to see you guys spend so much time and so much effort trying to do this test and trying to get the scores you need and just really overlooking the basics when that's all you really need to do. So a practical example. Let's look at something that I see every single day. So a typical message we get from students goes something like this. So a VIP student will send us an email and they won't even say like, hi Chris, or I'm in your VIP course or anything like that. We'll just get an email and it will say, I can't open the page. Okay, so this is not me complaining about emails, by the way. This is me showing you in the real world how bad communication can affect things and how developing main body paragraphs is all about just effective communication. So how do you think we're able to deal with that? So when someone sends me an email and just says, I can't open the page, do you think that I can help that person? Absolutely not, because I have so many questions that are unanswered that I just have no idea how to help this person. So what information do you think I need? All right, so I need to know which page it is, who the person is, what the exact problem is, what it looks like. There are so many extra pieces of information that this person is kind of assuming that I can read their mind, that I know what is happening in their brain. Believe me, I wish I had that power, but I don't, even though people send me emails assuming that I have that power every single day. So a better practical example. So imagine instead of that, someone says, I can't open the page to submit my writing. I clicked on the link and it showed a blank page. Please see the screenshots attached. All right, so do you see how this person is extremely effective at, sorry, keep the pipe underneath my desk. They are extremely effective at communicating. They anticipated our questions, they made it easy to understand our message, and they used a real example to show us what was actually happening. So I can't open the page to submit my writing. This is like the topic sentence, all right? So this is telling me, this is what this paragraph is about. Explanation, I clicked on the link and it showed a blank page. So they're helping me out with an explanation. Please see screenshots attached. Here's an example of what it actually looks like. So if I get an email like this, I'm very, very happy because I don't have to reply to the person and say like, what do you mean? What page? Can you show me a screenshot? They have anticipated all this by explaining things clearly, by using examples and communicating effectively. Now again, I'm not complaining about the emails I receive from you guys. What I'm doing is showing you in practical terms, a very, very practical real life example of the difference between poor communication, I can't open the page, no explanation, no examples, or I can't open the page to submit my writing, I clicked on the link and it showed a blank page, please see screenshots attached. Very simple, extremely short, to the point, but extremely effective communication. And that's what you need to do in your main body paragraph. So let's look at some real examples. So I'll show you a range of different main body paragraphs. I've not included the names to protect the innocent, so these are real essays that have been submitted in the last 1 or 2 weeks. So I just took out examples of really good main body paragraphs and main body paragraphs that require a lot of attention and they need a lot of help. You should not copy the good ones, all right? So the purpose of this is not so that you can look at a good example and just copy it word for word or anything like that. What you're looking for is the overarching theory, the general examples showing you what you should be doing. They're not to be copied. You should use these to inform your understanding of what is required and help you develop these skills, all right? And also, these are really, really, really important skills. Like, if you are hoping to go and work in an English-speaking company or country, depending on where you work, but like if someone worked for me and every time they sent me a message, I had to go back to them and say like, what do you actually mean? I would fire that person. Like I wouldn't have that person in my organization because they're wasting my time. And because if your communication skills are so low that you cannot explain basic things, you don't have any sympathy or empathy for the reader, then I see that as completely wasting my time and bordering on you have no respect for me because you just don't make any effort to make yourself clearly understood. So again, not just a IELTS skill, a very, very important life skill if you're hoping to work in an English-speaking country. So a well-developed paragraph. So here's an example of a really, really good, well-developed paragraph. Privacy is the primary advantage of living in a big house. All right. So what is an advantage of living in a big house? Privacy is the primary advantage of living in a big house. Very, very clear and easy to understand. All right. So why is privacy? So please tell me why privacy is an advantage. This is to say that many people these days prefer to live their life without any interference from their family members. This is especially true of the young ones who want a separate room with all necessary accessories of comfort. This is the reason families choose houses over flats. For instance, in the USA and the UK, 80% of families live in houses with a separate room for each family member to enjoy their privacy. So very specific, explaining why this is an advantage within a very specific content. And I'm not saying it has to be this specific, but it is good. And then using an example. And again, it doesn't have to be a survey. It doesn't have to be a percentage. Like this person could have just said most. Most families living in the USA and the UK do have separate bedrooms for each family member to enjoy their privacy. I believe that's true because especially Western kids kind of want their privacy these days. So very clear topic sentence, clear explanations, and a good example to help support it. All right, compare that with this. Okay, so you probably have a headache already just looking at this. Is this easy to understand? So just take your time. You can pause the video and have a look at this one. It will take you a very, very long time to and maybe even be impossible to understand this because the main idea is not clear, and it's also unclear how the explanation and example relate to actually answering the question. The reason why we use explanations and examples is twofold. One is to explain the main idea, but also you're helping answer the question. This is, do pause the video, do try and see what this person was doing and why it is not maybe a good idea that they did this. And kind of put yourself in the shoes of the reader. Do you think that you're putting the examiner in a good frame of mind by writing something like this? You're giving them a headache. How do people react when they have a headache? All right. So, and again, it doesn't have to be complicated. All right. Just if you look at this, it's quite simple. All right. Okay. So this one has a good main idea, but the explanation is not related to the question. All right. So another reason why countries like Canada and Germany ought to accept more refugees is the fact that a significant number of these human beings are at risk of becoming very sick. All right. So good main idea. All right. So Western countries should accept more refugees because if they don't, people will get sick. All right, but let's look at the example. This is to say that families living at the borders can no longer sustain life if they keep drinking polluted water. Many of their children will suffer from anemia and die if they remain untreated. All right, so that's nothing to do with why Western countries should accept them. That is just explaining how people get sick, or how people, it's basically just not explaining the question, just talking generally about why people get sick. So a better explanation for this would be Western countries do not want sick people at their borders because sick people at their borders, it might cause a contagion, it might the illnesses might spread over the border and cause their own population to become sick also, or something like these people will die, therefore, or get very sick, therefore, the Western countries have a moral obligation to help these people. So it's not related to the question, all right? It's just talking very generally about sick people. Too many ideas. All right, so another really common thing that I see is instead of having one idea, what people do instead of writing explanations, they just come up with more ideas, all right? So more ideas is not an explanation, all right? More ideas is not an example. More ideas is not developing your paragraph. It's just writing more ideas. It's what I call sometimes a shopping list paragraph. It's just a list of ideas. It is not developed. All right. So pause the video, read this, and you'll understand why it is not so good. No specific example. All right. So this one, I mean, quite good, but there's just no example. All right. And then they're just adding another idea instead of an example. So for this person, instead of saying the other disadvantages that multinational companies might benefit one country more than the other, which could lead to disagreements between the two nations, so you would delete this sentence, and what you would do is you would show an example of negatively impact the country's finance. All right. So all you have to do is just think of a real country, and even talk about it doesn't have to be. You don't have to know about a very very specific time and dates and exactly what happened. Having international businesses can also negatively impact the country's finance. I mean, that happens in most countries. Pick Brazil, China, India, Vietnam. Like all of them have kind of suffered a little bit. There has been negative things because a lot of international businesses have moved to those countries. So just name one country and say what happened in there, and that would be much better. Opinion not clear. So this person, this is asking for their opinion, but their opinion is just not clear. They're sitting on the fence, really. So you need to have a clear opinion if it's asking for your opinion. So while the expense is much greater when residing in a house rather than an apartment, an ability to escape unwanted disturbances from neighbours makes it all worthwhile. For apartment complex residents, the likelihood of being annoyed by adjacent neighbours is much higher. Okay, so again, it's not clear, and they've also talked about this idea again and again and again. So you pause the video, read that, and you'll be able to see that. So not answering the question. So this is a solutions paragraph, so it's a problems and solutions essay, and this is the solutions part, but it's not actually talking about any solutions. So this is a frustrating thing. Like we have told you, here's the exact structure to use, talk about the problem, talk about the solution. So it's really difficult to understand why someone would do this after going through the course and doing this. I don't know why anyone would do this, but it does happen. So again, obviously not an effective main body paragraph if you're not actually doing the thing that the question is asking you to do. No clear explanation and not answering the question. So helping refugees is highly regarded as an act of humanity. Every year, millions of people are suffering in war zones or in countries of political conflicts that put their lives in danger. These people have nowhere to go unless Western countries do not open their doors to them. So that's not talking about why. It's not talking about humanity. All right. So you're talking generally about the topic, and you're talking generally about why it's a bad thing to be a refugee, but you're not saying anything about it being an act of humanity. All right. So this is a generalization again. So this is a good one. One negative effect of charging people for entry is that there will be a decrease in the number of visitors to these sites. This is because there are some local residents who cannot afford to book or purchase a group ticket when they visit with a large extended family, and some foreigners who believe that it is not worthwhile paying the price to look around inside the building. For instance, the National Museum of Myanmar is rarely visited by the citizens due to the expensive price compared to the basic income of local people, and others think that they're blah blah blah. Okay, so you can read the rest of it yourself, but if you read this, you'll see that as a clear topic sentence, the explanation actually explains the topic sentence, answers the question, and a very specific example that supports the main idea. So this is well developed. This is good. Oh, sorry. Vague example. All right, so this is extremely, it's quite good in what they do up until the example. To exemplify, after giving asylum to refugees from Afghanistan in 2010, India has developed an unbreakable bond with this country. All right, it's really, really vague, and it doesn't actually address the question. It doesn't actually address the main point. All right, who cares if Afghanistan and India have an unbreakable bond? All right, that's great. That's really nice that that's happened, but it's nothing to do with the question. All right, it is very, very vague. So here's your task. Fossil fuel cars should be banned because this will reduce the effects of climate change. Explain this to a 10-year-old boy. So imagine that a really stupid 10-year-old boy, like more stupid than most 10-year-old boys, and he's with you and he's just like, why should fossil fuel cars should be banned? And this will reduce the effects of climate change. What does that mean? I really don't know what that means. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to explain that in simple language. It could be one sentence, could be two sentences, could be three sentences. It doesn't really matter. Learn from the examples that I've given you and just simply address that, explain that. All right? Imagine you're explaining it to someone who knows nothing about it. Pretend you're in an argument with someone who totally disagrees with you. What example would you use to win the argument? So imagine that you're arguing against someone, and that's really what an agree or disagree essay is. Really, it's an argumentative essay. So imagine that you think that fossil fuel cars should be banned because this will reduce the effects of climate change. What good examples could you use to help you explain your point? Alright, so post that below the video and I'll give you feedback on that later on in the week. This is the type of video that you're probably going to have to go back and look at those real examples again. So what I would do again is maybe, like, if you're still not quite getting it, look at the good ones. Why were they good? I told you why the bad ones were bad. But look at the words that the people are actually using. Why were they bad? What were they doing? And I think the main thing to take out of it is, that your explanation is actually explaining things, actually addressing the question, not overgeneralizing things, and the examples doing the same thing. All right, guys, thank you very much. Hope that you find that useful. If you still have no idea, email me, let me know. I'll see what I can do. But there's a huge amount of information on this, and remember that you probably don't need more information if you're still struggling with this. You probably just need to take a step back, review the things that you've already learned, and focus on being able to do it by practicing it. And you're not going to be able to immediately, look at the lessons and immediately go from being not very good at this to immediately being good at it. I always use the analogy of learning how to drive. You're not going to learn how to drive at 100 miles per hour immediately. You're going to learn, at 10 miles an hour, then 20 miles an hour, then slowly building up speed. But do have patience. You will be able to do it eventually. All right, guys, thank you very much. Bye bye.